Now what's going to happen here is the lights are going to come forward and the darks are going to recede. Okay. And also every edge decision I make in here in relation to the brush is going to make a difference. Okay. So I'm going to go up here to 3D, new mesh from layer, depth map 2, and I'm going to go plane. It's going to think. And now it made a topographical map of this thing, okay? So really quickly, this one's actually lit okay. So you can click this little light thing. This is actually lit correctly, I think. There. Okay, so this little thing right here, you click it, you can move the light, okay? Now my computer's gonna react really slow to everything. And I have this, by the way, when you're playing with this, make sure you're, damn it, it's not picking this thing. I'm trying to pick this. Now, I want to get it a little bigger is what I'm trying to do. Yeah, it will not pick that tool. Well, let's do this. I can usually pull it forward. It's just giving me, it doesn't want to get out of, oh, I know why. That's why. Okay, so if I come, it should be here. I get this. Okay, so this little box, right? That little blue box, I can pump up the terrain. I can do the same thing here. As it stops thinking. Oops. Now, usually when I pull these out, depending on what kind of brush work I've made, it will smooth it out. Sometimes it gives me more of a desert view, which is kind of cool. You got to get that little box in there. Come on.
I have a question.
Sure.
Sorry. So let's say you did a painting of of somebody's face in black and white. Would it do like a sculpture of that?
No, it's gonna. What it does is it literally brings the light forward and the darks recede. Okay. So if the face was lit a certain way, it might do that.
Okay.
My guess is it would probably sort of abstract it. I do that all the time though. I take things and I 3D them and it gives me like tripped out environments and stuff. Yeah, and I have used faces and stuff. And then I'll push and pull it and turn it into different things. I think it's really fun actually. Gosh damn it. This is the only thing that bugs me about this is because my computer's just stupid. I want this little box. I think that's it.
What would somebody use this for?
Quick environment. Yeah. I mean, it's a quick environment. Okay. You could use it for other things too. I'm sure people use it for a million things, but what it's really cool for is just doing this, doing really quick environments. Damn it. Let's see if I can grab it right here.
And the brush strokes that you did was, it made all that.
Uh-huh.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and I can't get this thing to grab it just because it's so slow. What I was trying to do is I can pull it the whole thing this way, and it tends to smooth out the hills. And a lot of times I can dial it in where it totally looks like a desert view. I can dial it in where it's starting to look like, you can see when I start to get these little things back here, it starts to suggest a forest. I usually do it this way, just like I have it, where I can kind of turn this and I can sort of get a little river running through there, right? And I'll show you something in a minute that speaks to that. This is really irritating me. I can't grab this.
Hey, Mike, it's Issei. Do you use the same brush for the whole piece, or did you use different brushes to get different effects? I use different
ones.
So like maybe a dry brush on the trees or something?
Yeah,
or-
what you're gonna see is like, see these jagged things and then these smooth things and these flat things.
Yeah.
After you do it, it doesn't take very long to figure it out. After you do it a little bit, you'll start seeing what brush marks make what. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
And then, so anyway, I can bring this up. I can't grab that back one for some reason, but I can grab this one. Let's see if I go, if I take this, I should have done this on my Windows machine. That wouldn't be so damn slow. Okay, basically, okay, I'm going to do this real quick. So let's look at this now. Okay, that makes sense, correct? When I click on that center thing, there's going to be a little box under there. I can pull the terrain up. I can pull the terrain out this way, or I can pull the terrain out this way. This little orbital looking icon right there does just that. It lets me move the model around, okay? Now you want to go depth math. You want to go up here. We'll do it again right now. Hang on. So let's do this. So if I do, shit, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Yeah. If I do this kind of thing, 3D here, sorry. New mesh from layer, depth map plane. And usually I incorporate these two things together. You can see I could start to build a city, okay, very easily. Now, what's happening here, again, when I made this, so let's go back. When I made that, I got my darkest value down here, a little lighter, lighter, darker, little lighter, little lighter, little lighter. So what's that going to do? It's going to keep stair stepping up and coming at me towards the camera, okay? If I put a really dark shape, like let's say, if I turn this one dark, let's see if I can. Come on. Let's grab this one. Or this one. Or let's do this one. And go. Use the dreaded magic wand tool. Oh my, oh, hang on. Let's just go here. And that's black. I'm not even sure what that'll do. There we go. See how it makes a hole? If you turn it around, see it, there it is. Right? So it literally just makes a hole. If I go to a really dark value. So you just got to manage your values is about all you got to do. Okay. You got to manage your values, which is pretty simple on this. And then let's see here. Let's take this one. Same one we just did. Oops, one more. This one. And let's see if we take it. So you can see we've got like here, that's where you're getting these sharp edges. So these sharp edges and things are where you're getting the sharper things in the 3D model. Okay. So I can kind of think about that and go, well, I'm going to soften all these edges, but over on this side, it's going to raise up. And on this side, I'm going to use a harder edge. So maybe this side smooth comes up and then it drops off like a cliff. Does that make sense? So I can start to really manage it, but I'm going to go in here and just soften everything. Come on. Man, my computer's slow today. Why is it doing that? Hang on.
Hi, Mike, it's Isa again. So the light and dark makes the depth, but then also the softening makes the spiky or the not or the smoothie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if
Thank
you
you.
wanted well, there's two things you could do, right? So that little XY tool that was in there where I can grab the little cube. And here's what you got to remember. You're not just grabbing anything in there. If you want to pull up the depth this way or out this way or this way, you got to grab the little cube. There's a little cube in there, like under the arrow. You go dink and you grab that and that'll do that. The other things do different things. It's XY stuff, axis stuff. Okay. So you want to, try to soften this. Hang on while we're talking. So like I said, sometimes I'll take it and I'll stretch it this way and it'll smooth all the hills out and start to give me more of, like I said, like a desert environment kind of thing. If I pull it up, obviously it's a mountainous environment. If I do it the way I tend to do it in these demos is I do one mass here and one mass here. Then when I pull that up, I usually get a little river right in the middle, if I want that, right?
Can you control the pull up, like if you're making it like a big Rockies or kind of like a gradual hill, like a curve?
You can do that with that little cube and pull it up. That's how far depth you want or height you want. I also, whenever I do this kind of thing, I go and I'll show you a little quick video in a second. I go in and I reshape a few things usually. Like I'll go, it's a little too sharp or there's too much of that, or I'm going to smooth that out or blah, blah, blah. And I go in and do that first, right? Okay, so this is I'm going to say this is smooth enough if it ever gives me back my tool again. Give it a second. Man, I don't know why my computer's this slow. It's weird because this is a 72 DPI file. So that doesn't make any sense. So let's give it a second.
It's 300, Mike.
Oh, it shouldn't be. Hang on. I'll check. Maybe you're right. Actually, you might be right. You might be right. Hang on. How do you know it's 300? Did you see it?
Yes, at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, then you're right. Okay, that's the problem then. Okay. I try and do these things because like this, I'm not going to keep it. Obviously, it's just for a demo. So usually I res it down. But I just have this mindset where I do everything at 300 all the time. So it's sort of a habit. So let's go here. Image size. Yep, 300. Well, that doesn't help. Okay. By the way, you got under view right here, you got 100%, 200%, print size, all that stuff, okay? Which is helpful. The print size especially is helpful. Okay, so let's see if we can smooth this out again. That's better.
Mike?
Yeah.
A bit of a technical question. So in the 3D programs, you're able to move around those arrows or what they call the gizmo. Are you able to do that as well in Photoshop to like manipulate certain areas?
I don't know if you can go in just certain areas. I think it kind of pulls the whole thing up as one unit.
A general, okay.
It's sort of like, and I'm again, this is another thing where somebody's probably out there doing stuff I hadn't even thought of with this tool. I tend to use it for a quick environment generator.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really nice. And again, it's also a little bit of that same thing we talked about before, where it's sort of like, I kind of know what it's going to do, but it's a little bit random. Okay, see how different this environment is now?
Okay.
It's a much smoother. It doesn't have all those jaggedy things, right? Let's try it right there. They're filming a movie around the corner right now. I don't know what it is. Okay, are we on that tool? Keeps jumping back to the same tool. I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah. I don't know why. It's not letting me select the tools I want to select. So let's go here. Yeah, I'll just do this. Let me try and grab that little cube. See, okay, so this one you're seeing, see how it does that little circle? That's this one, I think, right here. That little circle means it'll orbit around that circle. Okay, the other one will orbit this way. Okay, and the little box that it's giving me trouble with right there.
You froze, right?
Huh?
That's why I was moving my hands. I was like,
Did I freeze?
you froze really bad. Yes.
God, I don't know what's going on with my computer, man. Anyway, I just raised this up. Okay. What I was saying is there's different controls here. Like this little curve right here is going to orbit. Does that make sense? And then you have another one that goes this way. You have the little box that raises or lowers the entire terrain. And then you have a box on this one, which goes this way, and a box on this one, which goes this way. Okay. But what I'm saying is it's a different environment generated because the brushstrokes were different. Correct? Now, sometimes I think it's fun to do this. I'll take this kind of thing. And what's cool here is it already generated. Let's light it. It already sort of started to generate the idea of a lake or something, right? Now I would go back in here again, and I would start to come in here and I would shape some of this stuff. Now it's pixelated because it's a really low res image I pulled off the internet. Okay. And then the same thing here. I should be able to come in here. There it is. Let's see if I can grab this. Come on. Boy, it's really giving me a hard time today. No, that's pulling the whole thing. Let's pull it up. And maybe I can see it a little better. There we go. So I'm pulling it down because that is a little, that's pretty nice right there. If I wanted to get maybe an Arctic environment or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. What? So a lot of times I'll take random things like this and I'll just try it and see what I get. And then what I usually do is I pull it all forward. I fill up the frame. Okay. I'm just not going to do it right now because my computer's still slow. And I get, you know, some sort of an environment, and I can start there. Okay. This is, again, this is a low res thing, but now here I didn't really light it that much. So let's see if I can go. You know, and I could pull it down and then I'd have myself a little environment like, where is it? Like that as a starting point. Okay. And then what I usually do is I take these and I reshape them. Let me turn the sound off on this. Come on, turn off. Oh, it is off. Okay. And I end up with something like that. Okay. So this one I incorporated geometric shapes into a landscape. Okay. Lit it. Put it down, gave it some clouds, started putting a sky behind it. Okay, and also what you got to know here is that a lot of this I did with the Grisaille technique, same thing you just did in the last project. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And you know, depending on how long, you know, normally it really doesn't take that long. It's just a matter of me trying a couple different things and getting something that works. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And just out of curiosity, do you ever like Do you mess around with 3D programs too, Mike?
No. Okay. So let's do this real quick. Let's grab my marquee tool. Casey, have you messed around with 3D?
Yes, I've taken Maya 3D modeling and character animation at my
Yeah.
other community college.
I think it's like something you just have to know now. I don't think it's a choice anymore. Oops. This
I
is a whole
also-
different. I would never put this like, use this instead of 3D. It's not. It's just, for me, it just generates very quick ideas. Or 3D, new mesh from layer, depth map, plane. And you can see how I put these little buildings in there. Okay, now another thing I do with this, if I was going to do buildings, I'll do a little darker value. I'll pull a square inside the square and put a little darker, just a little darker. So then it drops down at the top of the building and the building has a little ledge. Okay, so then I can eliminate that problem. And all I got to do then, and I could even, a lot of times what I do is I just put a couple of little squares and things on the tops of the buildings and the ledge. And now I've already got my bullshit maintenance stuff up there, right? So it populates the roof. And then I'll go in and dance over it and start painting over it and stuff like that, you know. But it's like, it's really nice to have this as a starting point, you know, to paint into. And I like it too, because I'm not really, it's sort of what like a lot of people like about, and it's actually not photo bashing, but sometimes you'll take like a bunch of just, I use a lot of times I'll use images of slums, which sounds weird, but the reason I do that is because it's a lot of dense shapes, right? And I might just throw those in the behind and I'll start painting into it and out of it. Okay, I'm not even, it's going to get obliterated completely, but it's sort of like this. It sort of gives me a starting point. Okay. A lot of people do that, right? They find some sort of texture and they start painting into it. Okay. This is sort of that same idea, except that it's not, it's a more controlled texture, or texture, and a more controlled chaos for me to start painting in. Does that make sense? And I'm kind of controlling what I'm doing. So I could get, especially in this kind of environment where it's going to be, if it was a natural environment with buildings coming out of it, it's going to get me there very quickly. Okay. And again, I'm going to come in and I might go, these are too sharp, and I might come in with my paintbrush and knock them out. Might soften them a little bit. I might, whatever, you know, I might lower the whole topography of this and get a smoother environment where the hills are very slopey and not so severe. A lot of times I'll raise them like here. Like this little area right here, to me always suggests, it could suggest water, you know, and I'll go with the water idea. The thing I like about it is as soon as I start getting into this, I just start jumping off the cliff. Okay. Let's see if I can. This one for sure would be a nice starting point. Okay. But I'd come in and I'd lighten it a little more probably. And also usually a lot of times, I don't have a finished one here. I thought for sure. Oh, maybe this is. Yeah, this one is. Okay, so this one, I'm gonna go a little lighter. And then what was interesting about this is that it started doing this stair stepping thing, which right away my brain goes to terraforming, whatever they call that, right? Which is kind of interesting to me. I love it when it suggests things. Now, also when something like that happens, I know how it happened with the brush. If I needed that kind of an environment, like, you know, where it's I don't know what they terraformed, right? Is that what it's called? You know, where they're farming on the sides of vertical mountains and stuff. So I would probably go in here now and start, give this whole thing an overall value. And then I'd probably come in here and start knocking in green in between all these things and start to give it that kind of look. Or if it was another planet, maybe it's they're growing some fruit that's red. I don't know, whatever, right? And then back here, right away, the first thing I would probably do is go back here. And get a sky going so I have a color to start understanding what I'm doing. So let's go. And again, this is just a starting point. I could I would probably change it. And I might take this same thing. Sometimes I'll use this as a starting point. I'll just give it a little bit of that atmosphere and I'll start working into that. Does that make sense? That way the whole thing's unified right off the bat. Even though I'm probably going to go over it with a warmer color and all that kind of stuff. So let's try one more thing. And by the way, you don't have to do these big expansive things. You know, you might give yourself a little rolling hill and that's going to go like if I had a guy in a sort of a, you know, normal, not a normal environment, but an organic environment. And I had somebody who's, I don't know, military gear, they're on a planet, blah, blah, blah. I might just do sort of a rolling hill thing and then take that and throw it behind him because I already have, now I have a background. And then a lot of times I take these things, I do the same thing you see me do with a lot of things, where I take this whole environment and I squish it and I pull it out and I put it behind this and I start creating a more expansive environment and flipping things and all that kind of stuff, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
That way I don't have to bother with all that. It's just another way of doing it, basically, is what I'm saying. So let's try this real quick. This one is usually hard to light. I don't want that. Let's make sure this is not 300. And it is. And let's try this. Let's see if we can get this lit. For some reason, the cylinder is always harder to light. There. It's getting a little bottom lit, which I don't want. There. So what it's created there, and I'm having a hard time lighting it. Your computer hopefully has this fixed. But what it created there is a really nice sort of, if I could get it lit right, very rocky looking cylinder, okay? And when I was in another class doing this, they're like, what would I use that for? And I just created a cave really quickly, right? I took some of the environment. The other thing, I flipped it, sort of warped it, and then I took some of these columns, stuck them in there, sort of painted them up into the thing, and you had a cave in like 10 minutes, right? So again, this is lit badly, but what it gets really nice, these really nice rocky textures. It looks really cool. And then there's a couple, I think there's one or two other ones in here. Now, the thing is that like you can, there's other things in here. You can even do 3D print from this thing. And there's other things, but then I go, okay, when you start getting into these much more advanced 3D things, then I go, then it's probably time to move over to a 3D program. You know what I mean? I think this is a really good quick sketch creation tool. I don't know that I'd go that much further with it. It almost feels like, you know, you start going too, I mean, I shouldn't say that because again, there's probably somebody online who's doing unbelievably fantastic 2D art or whatever with this stuff using all those tools. And that's totally cool. Okay. So I shouldn't say that actually, but I'm just saying if you're going to really want to manipulate 3D on a high level, you got to go into a 3D program, right? This is a really cool tool for this, you know. Really play with your brush strokes, you know, and start looking at what it does, you know, and how you can control, because you can control it pretty well. Okay, like it's like I said, I can go. I want a sheer cliff here. I want a rolling hill there. I want a canyon in the middle. Or I'm going to put a river. I want a building over here. You know, all that kind of stuff. And so that's playing, it's mostly playing with your brush strokes and also playing around with your geometry and just remembering the darks recede and the lights come forward, okay? There's this weird tool in here. Like here. Where'd it go? Oh, it came over here. Where you can just start dropping things into the thing and you can dial it in. Here's the light direction. Here's the amount of leaves. That's kind of cool. Here's how many, the leaf size. Let's go a little smaller. Yeah, I don't like that. That's
Where
cool.
did you pull up that tree from?
This is under render, under filter. It's the same place where your lens flare is. And then I'm gonna hit OK. And if I put that on its own layer, I could move it wherever I want. Okay, I could set up the lighting wherever I want. I think these kind of things are helpful if you're just doing something real fast. You know. Now the other problem with this, again, is like it has to be a pretty naturalistic environment. If I have a very stylized environment, it's not going to work at all. Okay, but if I'm doing a very quick, and all by the way, I can take this and just move it, put it down here, cut it off, and now I got a bush in the foreground, right? Let's see if they have. Let's go in here. It's under filter, render, which is where your lens flare is right there. And it's tree. They have picture frame too, which I don't even think I've ever used. Oh, wow. It's literally just a picture frame. That's weird. Huh. That's kind of interesting. I wonder why they picked a picture frame. That seems kind of weird to me. And then they have different ones. And the same thing with the tree. So if you go to the tree, render.
What if you can't?
Can't
Tree
what?
is Great. I can't click on tree in Photoshop. It's just grayed out. It doesn't work.
Might be, maybe it needs a, are you on a layer? You might not be on a layer.
Okay, thanks.
So here's shrub, oak tree, you know, just all these different ideas. You know, and another thing that's nice about this though, is I could take this and I can duplicate it, stretch it and squash it, put it in the back and just get a big silhouette tree line in the back of my image really quickly. I can populate the scene really quickly, especially with stuff that's further away. It's like, it'll work perfect. Okay. I had a couple of architectural students in here last term, and they really use this quite a bit because in their environments, they sort of use a lot of artificial elements in architectural renderings now. So this doesn't really look odd at all in their world. Okay. And it wouldn't either here if it's being used in the right context.